This podcast was originally live-streamed on the NonSequitur Show on YouTube. New episodes air weekdays, Monday through Friday, at 8 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/NonSequitur Show. Make sure you never miss a live stream by visiting www.nonsecshow.com/schedule. For the latest news, polls and updates throughout the day, follow us on Twitter @NonSecShow or Facebook.com/NonSecShow. That's NONSEQ Show. If you'd like to get exclusive content, bi-weekly private hangouts with Kyle and Steve, backstage access to chat with guests after shows hosted on your channel, and much more, become a Patreon saint of NonSequitur. It ensures we continue to improve our show and brings you into the process at the same time. Visit patreon.com/NonSequitur today while the limited spots are still available.
The following podcast is intended for those who believe bold ideas are righteous, unique perspectives are gospel, and strong opinions are sacred. This is Non Sequitur. Never follow. And now, here are your hosts, Kyle Curtis and Steve McCrae.
You know what I did? I had the stream up, and whenever it cut back to the screen I'm used to seeing, all I heard was "Oh Lord" playing. So sorry you had to see that little behind the scenes, guys, but you are used to that. We actually made it on time tonight. Usually, Lucien, we're not on time at all. We're usually either late or there's some type of tech glitch. But in the year and a half that we've been doing the show, we have yet to have a smooth, professional opener. So it's just another day in paradise.
Now it's not the time to start.
That's exactly
Why
right.
break tradition, right? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly right. Thank you guys for joining us. If you joined us last night, that was a lot of fun. Go back and watch it if you haven't. Well, that doesn't really make sense. You wouldn't go back and watch it if you hadn't watched it yet. But go watch it because Aaron Rod joined me. We took your calls for about 2 hours, and about midway through, we had Steve. You remember Catholic traditionalist or the traditional Catholic?
I do. He called an atheist experience at one time,
right?
Or was it
so he called last?
I think it was talk to you.
He called in
called
last
you when
night.
you were on, wasn't it? Yeah.
He called in last night and said that he can prove God because 1,000 years ago there was a cracker or a block of bread. He used both terms. I'm not sure how you do both, but it turned into a pound of flesh, and it is in this church, and science can't explain it. And it literally, by that sentence, for the next 45 minutes, was just a nonstop shouting match between traditional Catholic and Aaron. And Aaron had been about, a couple in. So it was quite the night. If you didn't get to see that, please go and watch that. I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
Apparently flesh and meat are not the same thing. Just saying.
Right. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, that's what he was saying. I don't know. It was strange. It was very strange. So tonight we have Lucien is Greaves, right? I want to make sure I say your last name correctly.
That is correct.
Awesome. A lot of people, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of people have been hitting me up over the past couple of weeks to get this guy on, and thankfully he took the time to join us. We were having a conversation prior to starting the stream that I think is going to just be fantastic to have. a lot of you remember the controversy we were embroiled in about platforming, and it seems like we have sort of a similar view on that, and I think that'll be good to sort of talk about as well, because it seems to be an issue that is by the day getting worse, and I think it's important to talk about. But let me just take a second and introduce Lucien properly. Lucien Greaves is a social activist and the spokesman and co-founder of the Satanic Temple. Greaves has appeared in numerous media outlets and has made televised appearances on the Fox News Network. He is a public speaker and essayist who has contributed to articles and publications, including Skeptic Magazine, Skeptical Inquirer, The Washington Post, and International Business Times. Welcome, sir, and thank you once again for taking the time to join us here tonight.
Thank you for having me. On Twitter said she can die in peace now.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. It comes with a lot of bribery. I've gotten that somebody will love me forever. One person said that they would never leave another negative comment on a video if you came on. So I don't know what it is, but you have that power. It's Satan, right? You made a deal with Satan. It has to be Satan.
Must be, but unfortunately for me, I only tend to notice the hate mail and the disparaging comments. I can go through miles of text that are saying glowing things, and I'll see the one thing that says I'm an asshole, and that's the one that gets me.
Boy, that's what we do. That's like us. That one comment destroys all the other ones. It makes us sad.
Steve, before we jump in, did you have anything you needed to? You have anything coming up or anything like that you want to put out there?
I do actually. I'm going to be going to Anaheim here next week. We are going to be trying to recreate a flat Earth experiment up in the LA region with Ruhif. Actually, I'm going to try to be a videographer to that and hopefully get some like live stuff. Maybe we can stream while we're doing or something like that. But that's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know what experiment we're going to be doing. I think we're going to do a Benford level experiment with a theodolite.
Fascinating. Well, good. Tomorrow, I have just one announcement, and then we'll get into it. But as many of you know, a very big issue. It's come up in every stream that we've done since Faithless Forum last night. There was a caller that asked the question, and Aaron gave his stance on there. There's been a lot of talk about the rationality rules and the atheist community of Austin situation. Tomorrow, we'll actually be joined by Jamie Booth, who is the president of the ACA, to go through everything, the response, what they're hoping to see out the outcome of the situation, that sort of thing. So we're going to have a conversation about that tomorrow. It's going to be at 9:00 Eastern, so you can join us for that. And that way, that side will be out there. There will be a lot less, I hope, speculation about where everybody stands, and I think it'll be good to sort of get out there. So, Lucien, let's start out with letting you people know how you sort of became involved and what your motivation was for starting the Satanic Temple, because it's getting easier now. People can accept that a lot easier than they could even, I think, 10 years ago. So it's got to be really cool to see the progress that the country seems to be taking.
Well, I have to credit us for that directly. I think before the Satanic Temple, you didn't see people talking about Satanism the way they do now. You didn't see people talking about it as though it were some kind of legitimate religious identity. And even now they try to denigrate it and say that it isn't. But you see even Fox News being more circumspect. It was even a couple years ago, I saw a commentator on Fox News talking about Satanists and saying these terrible things, and then deciding to add the caveat in a Trump-like fashion, saying, "But I'm sure some of them are very good people," or something like that, or that they're not all like that, or something. And I don't think you ever heard anything like that before the Satanic Temple came along, and I think that's entirely our doing. But my original interest in Satanism derived from the Satanic Panic when I was a kid. There were these stories of these satanic cults breeding babies just for the purpose of murdering them, cannibalizing missing persons, working to undo the moral fabric of society for the ends of some kind of world domination plot. And these are really kind of extreme conspiracy theories that we recognize as such now, but they gained mainstream acceptance on daytime talk shows and in mainstream press in general. And in a certain subsection of the psychotherapeutic community, there was this idea that they could recover hidden traumatic memories of satanic ritual abuse. And, therapists who subscribed to this idea tended to resurrect these memories from people's minds. And naturally, it's easy to see that the kind of questions they were asking people were leading them to come to these conclusions, in the same way that somebody who does recovered memory therapies upon people they suspect were abducted by aliens, or they have a specialty in recovering memories of that, they tend to recover only those types of memories. And people who have a predilection for searching for memories of satanic ritual abuse, they tend to find those as well. It's a debunked practice, but it's still practiced today, and that's something we fight back against. But when I was a kid and I was seeing these claims, I was young enough that initially I took them at face value, and to know that there were these extreme kind of occult criminal society working in the background was a very jarring thing to learn about, right? And to see people kind of taking that casually, or to see that kind of narrative fade away without resolution, was interesting to me. So I kind of pursued this later on and was wondering what was the real root of these stories. By the time I was in high school, I think I was really kind of intrigued by this, and to learn more and more that these were simply the irresponsible claims of modern day witch hunters, that none of these things were true. And furthermore, researching to find out who actually did self-identify as a Satanist, and reading this kind of literary canon of satanic materials, and growing an affinity for this metaphorical, iconic Satan as the rebel against tyranny and the inquirer for knowledge in the face of superstition, was very appealing, especially when you add to that I'm becoming more and more disillusioned with traditional religious institutions as disclosures come out regarding their corruption, their cover-ups of pedophilic crimes and other such things. Really rather solidified me as a Satanist, and that stuck with me for some time. But I didn't feel a real need to come out publicly and declare myself a public Satanist, especially with my keen awareness of the Satanic Panic as it happened. And to do so, in fact, felt suicidal. But I had some friends, and they wanted to work on a film project. And the idea of the film project was that, a minority religious group would be fighting for the same privileges and exemptions that the theocrats in the United States were pushing for, and nobody else, or they didn't count on anybody else trying to take advantage of those doors they were kicking open and couldn't close behind them. And to kind of reassert the notion that we're a pluralistic nation, and the government needs to engage in viewpoint neutrality insofar as questions of religion are concerned, it would be really jarring for an extreme alternative religious voice to come forward and say that they were going to engage in these same things. And the thing is I was the Satanist, so I was consulting at first. I still didn't want my face on this, and I just wanted to be sure that Satanism was properly represented and not represented as some type of crass joke. Satanists get shit on enough that I wanted to make sure that there was some kind of respect for Satanism in this project they were working on. And it didn't take long, though,